Hello, readers. We are today on lesson number 29 in our blue reading book. If you need to pause for a moment and get your packet and book, get to lesson 29, and then we'll get started. Touching column 1. Word 1 is breath. What word? Good, breath. Your breath is in the air you take in or let out, right? Not in the air. It is the air that you breathe in and let out. If you hold your breath, you are not taking in any air or letting any out. What do we call the air that you take in and out? Right, your breath. Word 2 is shriek. What word? Shriek. A shriek is a very sharp scream. A shriek is probably not a very nice sound to hear. What do we call a sharp scream? Right, a shriek. Word 3 is leathery. What word? Yes, leathery. If something is leathery, it looks or feels like leather. Here would be another way of saying the meat was like leather. The meat was leathery. What would be a way of saying his skin looked like leather? His skin was leathery. Word 4 is immediately. What word? Yes, immediately. Let's do column 1 immediately. Get ready. Breath, shriek, leathery, immediately. Column 2. Column 2, pointing finger ready? Word 1. What word? Right, clearing. A clearing is a place in a forest or jungle where there are no trees, right? An open area, a clearing. Word 2. What word? Right, dense. Hopefully your car has no dents in it. Word 3. What word? Yes, driven. Word 4. What word? Did you say practiced? Good. Word 5. What word? Yes, terrible. Word 6 is very similar. Look at it carefully. What word? Correct. Terribly. Let's do column 2 the quick way. Get ready when I touch my nose. Clearing, dense, driven, practiced, terrible, terribly. Good work, scholars. Column 3. What is word 1? Yes, sense. Word 2, right, pond. Word 3, correct, club. Word 4, yes, thick. Thick and thin are antonyms or opposites. This is the word thick. Word 5, what word? Absolutely, spread is the word. Word 6, what word? Be careful. Stared, not starred, stared. Let's do column 3 the quick way when I touch my ear. Sense, pond, club, thick, spread, stared. Moving to column 4. So scholars, the words in column 4 are tricky. Don't get fooled. We have words that look very similar. Word 1 is groove, and word 2 is grove. What's word 1? Groove. And how about word 2? Grove. So groove and grove. Word 3 is steam, and word 4 is stream. What's word 3? Right, steam. And what's word 4? Correct, stream. Steam and stream. Word 5 is tail, and word 6 is trail. What's word 5? Right, tail. And how about word 6? Correct, trail. Let's do column 4 the quick way, but remember, be careful. Don't get fooled. Here we go. When I touch my chin. Groove, grove, Steam, stream. Tail, trail. Good work, scholars. Remember, if you want to pause and practice any of those words again, go ahead and pause. Otherwise, we're going to move into Part B. Part B is us continuing our story today about Edna and Carla. Touching the title? Everyone, let's read the title together. Ready? Footprints. Remember, I'm expecting that you are tracking with your finger, following along, or using a bookmark to slide along, tracking and following along. And remember, I will ask a few questions along the way. Footprints. There was a row of footprints in the red sand. The footprints of the animal were a yard long. Each footprint had 3 toes. The size of the footprints told Edna something about the size of the animal. Let's stop for a moment, scholars. What would that footprint size tell you about the size of the animal? Think about that for a moment. Did your answer have something to do with the size of the animal being big? Right? If it has that big of a footprint, it's a big animal. The footprints made very deep dents in the sand. These deep dents told Edna something about how much the animal weighed. Let's stop and think about that for a moment too, scholars. If the footprint is dented deeper in the sand, what does that tell you about the weight of the animal? Right. It weighs a lot. So the size of that footprint and how deep the footprint is tells her that it's a big animal and it's heavy. I'm ready to continue. Between the footprints was a deep groove in the sand. Carla asked, "What could make that deep trail?" So everyone, let's look at the groove in between those footprints. The groove goes where the footprints go. Can you think of what could be making that groove? Right. I was thinking a tail. Were you thinking that? Let's find out. Suddenly, Edna shouted, "A tail! I'll bet a tail did that. That animal is walking on its hind legs. It's dragging a heavy tail behind it. The tail makes that groove in the sand." We were right. For a while, the girls walked around the footprints and didn't say anything. Then they looked toward the jungle. The animal had left a huge path through the jungle. On either side of this path were thick vines and trees. But the path was almost clear. It looked as if somebody had driven a truck through the jungle and knocked down all the small trees and vines. So everyone, take a moment and look at that picture on page 143. Can you see any trees that were knocked over when the animal went through the jungle? I bet you can. All right, scholars, we're at the flower. The first flower. Edna said, I don't think we should go into that jungle." "Yeah, we shouldn't do it," Carla said. The girls were silent for a few moments. They just stood there and looked at the great path that led into the jungle. Then Carla said, "But we could follow that path for a little way. We don't have to go too far." Scholars, do you think they're going to follow the path? And do you think that's a good decision if they do? I'm thinking of a personality trait in Edna and Carla. They're pretty daring, aren't they? They climbed into the lifeboat when they weren't supposed to. I don't know if that's daring or maybe foolish, right? They didn't follow instructions. So they might lack a little virtue, but now they're also seeming daring to maybe follow this path of some big animal. Ready? I don't want to go in there, Edna said. But she wasn't telling Carla the truth. Part of her was frightened and wanted to run away, but part of her wanted to see what made those huge footprints. Her mind made pictures of that animal. In one of the pictures, the animal was chasing Carla and Edna. Edna was running as fast as she could, but the animal was getting closer and closer, and whew. And then we have the ellipsis, scholars. Edna stopped right in the middle of what she was thinking. We're about to find out why that is. Come on, Carla said. Let's go just a little way. So, we know Edna stopped what she was thinking because Carla interrupted her thought and said something. Now, another part of Edna's mind was taking over. It wanted to see that animal. This part of Edna's mind was not terribly frightened. It made up pictures of Carla and Edna sneaking up on the animal. In these pictures, the animal did not see Edna and Carla. This animal is not very smart, Edna said to herself. If it was a smart animal, it would have found us last night. Maybe it does not have a good sense of smell. Maybe it has poor eyesight. So why does Edna think the animal is not very smart? Right, because it didn't find them last night. A smart animal would have found them last night. And Edna then thinks of two things that could maybe be wrong with this animal. Can you remember both of them? Did you say poor eyesight and bad sense of smell? Right. Good job. Let's continue. Okay, let's follow the path, Edna said to Carla. But just a little way. Carla picked up a short, heavy branch. She practiced swinging it like a club. Edna picked up a branch too. Scholars, why don't you pick up an invisible branch right now, right? A big, heavy branch. Practice swinging it. Be careful. Don't hit anyone or anything around you. But get ready, right? If you had to defend yourself against this animal, would you be ready with your invisible stick? They were easy to find in the path made by the animal. Why would they have been easy to find? Oh, right, because the animal had knocked so many branches and trees down. So, the girls started down the path into the jungle. They walked very slowly and carefully. They jumped each time a screech or a roar came from the jungle. They tried not to step on small branches that would make a cracking sound. Why would they try not to step on branches that would crack? What are you thinking? Oh, they don't want the animal to hear them. I'm at the word slowly. Are you tracking with me? Slowly, they moved farther into the jungle. Soon, Edna could not see the beach behind her. The trees over them blocked out the light. This is far enough, Edna said, after she realized that the girls had gone over 100 meters into the jungle. Shh, Carla said, and pointed straight ahead. Edna could see a clearing. In the middle of it was a small pond. From the pond, steam rose into the air. The girls moved forward. Now, Edna could see a small stream flowing into the pond, and she saw tall grass. So, scholars, let's name some of the things Edna saw in that clearing. tall grass, a stream, and a pond that has steam rising from it. Now, the picture, scholars, shows us that clearing. You can see there are no trees in the clearing, right? It's an area that's clear of trees. Touch the pond. Now, touch the steam that's rising into the air from the pond. Touch the stream. Touch tall grass. All right, scholars, I'm going to have you read the rest of the story. But for today, I'm not going to tell you the things to look for in the reading. So read very carefully and be ready to answer just a few questions for me when you're finished with that part. Go ahead, pause and read the end of the story. All right, let's hear my questions. Edna saw something next to the path that she recognized from a picture in a book. What did she recognize? Yes, a tree. What else was in the picture that she remembered that had that tree in it? Right, did you say dinosaurs? Or maybe you remembered more specifically a Tyrannosaurus fighting with a Triceratops? When Edna remembered the picture, she thought of the footprints on the beach. And then she said, oh no, aloud. She had figured something out. Scholars, what had she figured out? Dinosaurs are on this island? Yikes. All right, let's get to our packet. All right, looking at our work for lesson 29. In this lesson, it says, but she wasn't telling Carla the truth. Part of her was frightened and wanted to run away, but part of her wanted to see what made those huge footprints. So the she and the her we're talking about, right, are Edna. So it's Edna feeling this way, right? The she, the her is Edna. Right? So it reminds me of our reading in The One and Only Ivan when we read about mixed emotions, right? Part of her is frightened, but part of her, I would say the feeling here, the emotion, is curious, right? So she's feeling frightened and curious. Number one, have you ever been so curious that you have done something against your better judgment? When? So, better judgment, right? Scholars means like when, so against your better judgment, when you probably know you shouldn't be doing something or you shouldn't be checking something out, but you're curious about it, so you do it even though you know in your mind that it's not something you should do, right? Maybe like a little test of your virtue, perhaps. So have you ever been so curious that you've done something against your better judgment? So, and then when? Now, if you've never done something against your better judgment, you've never been so curious that you've done something you shouldn't, you could write that, right? A time I was so curious was when the ellipsis, right? You can finish. So that's a good starter, scholars, that uses part of the question in your answer. The time I was so curious was when I blah 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 blah. Right? Then number two, if you were Edna in this situation, would you have gone into the jungle? Why or why not? I would not have gone into the jungle. Oh, my favorite word. Because, boom, boom, boom. Ellipsis, right? You could finish that thought. Or, scholars, excuse me, maybe you would have gone in, right? So in that case, you would not write not. You would not write not. Not. I would have gone into the jungle because blah, 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 blah. Right? So, again, scholars, look at all the words, right, that we used from the question. So, if you use this starter or something similar, and this starter or something similar, you are getting a point, right, for using words from the question in your answer. If you answer both of these completely, right, saying why or why not, and when you were curious, right, that's answering all the parts. Right? Textual evidence, right, is going to come into this one, right? You're going to be telling why you would or why you would not go in, right? Tie it to the story. What happened or what might happen that would make you not want to go? Or what happened or might happen that would make you want to go? Right? And then connecting to yourself, that's what question number 1 is, right? You're connecting the story to a time you were curious. And then, of course, watching your capital letters and punctuation marks. That, scholars, is how you work to get all 5 points on today's assignment. Good luck. Remember, when you're finished, submit a photo of this to your teacher, submitting your work. And, as always, practice reading the story aloud to build your fluency. Read it to a stuffy, read it to a relative. Maybe you want to Zoom or Skype with a relative you haven't seen for a while and have that person listen to your story. What a great way for a relative to get connected to what you're doing at school. Good luck, scholars, and see you on Thursday as we continue with Edna and Carla.